Hey guys, Juan here from Impaktech USA, and today we have another video with this beautiful 2023 Yamaha R7. We actually just picked this up from the dealership yesterday. It has about 7 miles on the dash, and today we are going to be installing our world famous Impaktech crash cage. So we opted for our 2023 R7 to go with this beautiful Tiffany blue powder coating. The first thing you want to do with the install is make sure that you have a left and a right side cage. We're going to start off on the right side, which is the throttle side of the bike. Basically, before we install this, I want to show you how this is going to get mounted up. This middle motor mount is going to go right here to your main motor mount. So you're going to mount it right here just like this. And then here on the rear section of the cage, you are gonna have to install these brackets. So in your hardware pack, you're gonna receive 2 black anodized steel brackets. Now, we are working on the right side of the motorcycle. That is the side where the throttle's on, okay? So you're gonna have 2 brackets that are the exact same size. And on one bracket, you are gonna have an open hole. On the other bracket, you are gonna have a hole that is threaded. Now, if you look over here, we are gonna have to remove that bolt there. Once that bolt gets removed, we are gonna insert the bracket that does not have a thread. So this side here. That side is gonna go on the right side of the bike, and on the left side of the bike, you are gonna use the other bracket, which has the threads, to reinsert that all thread. So let's go ahead and start again on the right side of the bike. Grab a 6mm Allen, start removing this cover. Okay, so the objective is to grab this 14mm bolt here, but you're not gonna be able to get a socket in through here because it's super tight. So what you're gonna do is grab a 4mm, just go ahead and unloosen this brake line bracket, remove that. And then once it's out of the way, you can grab an extension, use a 14mm and break that there. Before we're able to break the other side, we do have to break this side. So go ahead and remove this panel. These are gonna be 5mm Allens. And then this one's a little tricky to get to. So just go ahead and unscrew this side here, which is gonna be a 6mm. Bring that shifter linkage down. Then remove that final piece. All right. Now that we have the cover removed, we can break that 14mm bolt, which we're gonna need for the brackets. Again, all I did was remove that shifter linkage, take that cover off, and now I have access to that. These bolts tend to be really, really tight, so if you do have a breaker bar, go ahead and use that breaker bar. We're gonna use a piece of tubing so we can have some leverage on that. So once again, this is 14, and there you go. As you can see, I just used a piece of tubing on the ratchet because it is really, really tight. So get the nut off, and then there is going to be a washer, so make sure to get those flat washers off as well. All right, now we can move that bolt on the other side. So let's go back to the right side of the bike, again, throttle side. Right now what we did was we broke it from the clutch side. Okay, we're going to remove this, take that bolt out. Okay, now remember, we're going to use the side that does not have threading, so we're going to thread it in from here, and I'll put the bolt back in. Then we'll go in through here. And perfect. Now we're gonna go to the other side, and we're gonna use the bracket that does have the threads. Okay, so I'm gonna be on the right side, which is the throttle side of the bike, screwing in the bolt, and you're gonna have somebody else holding the bracket on the opposite side of the bike. And as I'm screwing in, he's gonna hold the bracket to ensure that the thread goes in the bracket and that the bracket does not tilt right or left. It has to be centered. All right, now as soon as we get it to be a little tight, that's where you're gonna wanna hold both brackets. Again, the brackets need to be straight, so you do not want these brackets to be angled to the left or angled to the right. You do not want them to be super tight just yet, because once we install the crash cage, you are gonna need some wiggle room. Okay, so now that we have the bracket installed, we just completed the hardest part. Now we are gonna break this main motor mount bolt, and that is gonna be a 17mm bolt. Break this, nice and easy. And we are gonna go ahead and remove this motor mount bolt. Now when you do this, make sure you do not remove both motor mounts at once. If you remove both motor mounts at once, the engine is going to sag and you're going to have to go ahead and try to lift it up to realign the bolt. So please just work one side at a time. First, we're going to start on this side because it's the easiest. So we are going to remove this, take that out. And the beauty of our hardware is that you cannot get confused. Both of these bolts are going to be the exact same size. So I want you to just grab one bolt, and we are going to work with this bolt on this side. Now, a little trick that I use is I'm going to connect the crossbar to the cage already. That way, as I insert the crossbar with the cage, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to put this in there while both cages are already installed. So let's go ahead and use a 9/16 and get this installed. Before we actually insert the motor mount bolt, we are going to go to the rear section here where this bracket's at, and we are going to remove this crossbar bolt as well. And this bolt here is going to go to the rear section like that. So we are going to reinstall it, but we're going to do that after we get the motor mount bolt in. Now, the way this motor mount is going to work is you're going to remove the spacer, and the spacer is going to go like this, and the motor mount with lock washer is going to go through the cage. So the midsection with the crush washer, and then the spacer is going to go on the back side. And please make sure to have a buddy as they're holding it. If not, you run into the possibility of the crash cage falling and you're ruining your brand new powder coating, or it can actually hit your fairing. So the Impaktech bolt is going to be 19 millimeters. So let's get that installed. Now we're just going to use microfiber because we don't want to scratch the top of this as we're torquing it down. But again, 19 millimeter. So we're just going to find that bolt and then just start screwing that in. Now the torque spec for these is going to be 30 foot-pounds, but we're not going to torque it just yet. Perfect. Now we're going to go to the rear section. And again, this is going to be a 9/16. We are going to grab that bolt that came with the bracket in the hardware pack and insert it through here, all the way through here. All right, so now that we have this tightened, we can install the crash cage on the other end. Now, please do not torque anything down just yet. The reason being is because since we have the crossbar installed here, this has to have a little bit of wiggle room in order to reconnect to the other side of the crash cage. So just make sure it's sturdy on there. And then, yeah, let's go to the other side and get this cage installed. But all right, so once again, 17 millimeters. Get this engine bolt out, remove that. Now, before we bring the cage on, remove this crossbar bolt on this side. And if you haven't done so already, remove the crossbar bolt on this side as well. Make sure this is out. Once again, these two are 9/16. And just like the other side, we are going to feed the motor mount bolt with the lock washer through the middle of the cage. And the spacer is going to go on the back. And again, just have your buddy hold the cage. And this is going to be a 19. All right, again, do not torque down. Now we are going to switch it to a 9/16 through here. All right, once again, do not torque that down. And as you can see, the reason why I installed the crossbar with a cage on the other side is because if we had these cages on here, trying to mimic that crossbar through these holes, I mean, you can do it, but why risk the possibility of scratching up these fairings? So I do it this way. Now we finally have the left and the right side cage installed. All we need is the pucks, but before we install the pucks, we can finally torque everything down. The motor mount is going to be 30 foot-pounds of torque. The crossbar is going to be 15 foot-pounds of torque, and the rear bracket is going to be 15 foot-pounds of torque. Once these are torqued down, you can grab the other side of the bracket and make sure that is as tight as possible now that these brackets are not going to move. We've already went ahead and reinstalled all the plastics. All we need to do is this one cover on this side. But yeah, just go ahead and grab the puck. You are going to have a 10 millimeter torque screw, and we do have pilot hose on our puck, so just make sure to slide it through that pilot hole. Make sure it is tight. You do not want any wiggle on these pucks. We're going to repeat that same process on all four sides. Now that we have the crash cage pucks installed, we are going to finalize this install with our Impaktech decal. Alright guys, so that concludes the Yamaha R7 Impaktech crash cage install. The install was very, very easy. We'll go ahead and include all the tools that you need to install it yourself. Once again, this crash cage requires 0 modifications. You do not have to cut your beautiful brand new fairings. Everything is 100% bolt-on. Please purchase yourself a crash cage, protect your investment. All crash cages are made here in the United States, 100% made in the US. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Impaktech. And if you want to see the adjustable subcage, we will go ahead and do an install video on that. At the end of this video, we'll do some B-roll of all the parts installed, but the adjustable subcage is going to be a separate video, as well as the clutch lever. So once again, thank you guys and enjoy this B-roll.